Okay, I have nothing else better to do today other than make coffee. So today's Coffee with Coach Rodhe episode, we're going to look at Berzerker Blend, VTAC through Black Rifle, and we're going to do pour over. We're going to do it in the Chemex. This is actually a Hario V60 filter. I don't have any Chemex filter. Times are tough. So before our water gets too cold here, we're going to go ahead and do our brew. And I'll kind of talk you through what I thought about the coffee while we're doing the brew point. Just under 205 degree water. It's probably almost down to 200 now. Let me get my stopwatch out. Here we go. Okay. We're gonna hit a 30-second bloom period. I find the more and more I've done pour overs, trying to get a specific amount of water through the grounds in a specific amount of time. Your window is 2 minutes and 30 seconds to 3 minutes before the water starts to sour, or before the coffee grounds start to sour a bit with pour over. So I do like doing this 30-second bloom period where you wet the grounds and let them off gas. And then after 30 seconds, you start doing your pour. And then I used to, try and do a ratio of 16 grams to 1. And get a specific amount of water through a specific amount of grounds within that window. And it's just hard sometimes. And I've, especially with kids, I've gone to a more of a format of, I set a specific amount of coffee. This is 35 grams of coffee. And I just pour for up to 3 minutes. And I try and keep a crown on the grounds. Okay, you want to have them rounded and you don't want to overfill. I did a post a while back saying, if your coffee shop's not doing your pour over like this, they're doing it wrong. Okay, because you can't just dump a bunch of water in and walk away and come back and dump more in. It ruins the flow, it ruins the evenness of the brew. There's a lovely video out there of a guy holding a perfect crown. I can't imagine how many times they must have filmed it to try and maintain. If I find the link, I'll put it in the description below. So we're at 1:45 here, still going strong. Now this Berzerker Blend, with the name and the advertising around it, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a really strong coffee. It's gonna be really good. And to be honest, it kind of fell flat for me a little bit. I don't really, it's a darker roast, but there wasn't anything that jumped out at me. It was super special. It was kind of dry and not a whole lot of flavor profile there. When you drink coffee, sometimes you end up getting more thirsty. It's diuretic, so it makes you thirsty, but it's almost makes you more tired. Sometimes coffee, as soon as you drink it, you automatically get tired, hits your adrenals wrong. This coffee did that to me. It's not what I would consider a super good one. So we're at 245. So we're gonna go ahead and pull off on the pour, let it finish out to 2 minutes, and then we're gonna get rid of the grounds. Okay, I almost got into trouble there. Usually when I haven't used the Chemex for a while. With the V60 Hario pour over, as soon as you hit 3 minutes, you can just pull the whole thing off your cup and let it drip out. I actually had to take this to the trash and pull the filter up and get it out before it dripped some of that sour coffee in there. So that was a bit, I had to cut the film for that one. But okay, so we've got our brewed coffee here. Let's see, anything else I want to talk about with the Berzerker Blend? Not much else. Yeah, just kind of a basic coffee. I don't, not anything special. Maybe I had a bad bag. I don't really know. Okay, so we're going to pour our Chemex. If anybody has never had a Chemex, they're fantastic. I wish I could use mine more. This is kind of a special occasion. Makes a really good cup of coffee. It's a perfect blend between pour over and a coffee pot. You get your volume. I purchased this from a local coffee shop in Mansfield quite a few years ago, and I've been really happy with that. Now today, especially since I don't really prefer the flavor of this coffee so much. We have, because of coronavirus, shut down and not wanting to go to the stores, we have a local produce company called Cerna and Sons, and they typically supply restaurants, but because restaurants are shut down, they have to do something with their product, and instead of laying off all their employees, they have opened up their doors to the public. So you can come and you order online, and you go to their warehouse and give them your name and your order number, and they just bring your food out on dolly carts and boxes and put it in your car for you, and nobody exchanges money, and nobody gets within 6 feet of each other, and it's really super nice. And I had to get a dairy box this last time for the kids, and we got a thing of creamer was in the box. I never buy cream. Usually if I use cream in coffee, I want like a full fat whipping cream, not half and half, but they carry this Borden brand, the Elsie cow, and it's fantastic stuff. And so today we're having a treat of a little bit of cream in the coffee and with this Berzerker blend. And all of it, again, out of our tea in the Harbor Tankard. If anybody has not been watching the series, I think this is the 3rd time this one's been on. It's one of my favorites, a go-to. It's sold through 1776 United. It is a great mug and great look. And I really like the statement here. The statement says, "I like my coffee black and my tea in the Harbor." Kind of ironic, I just put cream in there. So, All right, so that cream just takes this coffee straight to a nutty, balanced, mellow, kind of a candy drink. So that's it for the coffee. Hope you enjoy the pour over. And now let's get to our props. Okay, I got my models out. I bought these about a year or 2 ago in hopes of using them for a lecture at some time, and I have not had the opportunity to really use them yet. And so I've used them with local people and people who come to the gym for demonstrations, but we're going to show you today. Catapult versus Trebuchet, okay? I came up with this analogy to throwing maybe around 2011 or so, maybe 2010. I'm not real sure on the timeline. But it was certainly before the Olympics, before the 2012 Olympics. And when I went to Kamloops, train with Bondarchuk, right away it was no jumping throws, okay? And we've covered this a lot. Everybody knows me. I'm a grounded guy, bent leg throwing, no jumping. We've got the data, we've seen the change. There's a lot of the throwers today are throwing very well. It's good technique. The change has happened, okay? If you want to know more about the timeline that I've laid out of where the change, where rotational throwing started, and the timeline of where it went into jumping and has returned back to grounded bent leg finishes, I'll put it in the description. There's a link. Return to the great rotational throw model. That is a lot of video of historical throwers and is a evidence-based theory on why people are throwing further now than they used to, and so forth. Now, a lot of that comes out of, we say the catapult is more like a jump approach to throwing, and the trebuchet is more like a grounded bent leg approach to throwing, okay? Now, I say with the difference in bent leg throwing and jumping is where a lot of times people, if they feel force on their body, they think they're being powerful. They say, "Oh, I felt that a lot. That was a lot of power," right? Okay, yes. You generated a lot of power, and then you applied that force into your body, and that's why you felt the power. You felt powerful because you weren't efficient in transferring that energy, okay? And that's where the old adage comes from of the far throws are easy, right? Your furthest throws, you didn't even feel like you worked hard. And that's because you actually transferred your energy on that throw. And that's how you should be throwing all the time, okay? And a trebuchet model, bent leg throwing, allows you to transfer energy every time. Every throw is easy. You don't feel the force in the body. The force goes into the implement, okay? So it's a nuance there, but it's a very big thing. A lot of young athletes, they say, oh, I felt powerful. And I see their whole body jerk up and back at the finish of the throw. And you know, they put the force on themselves, not the ball, and surely it falls flat and short, okay? So putting more force on the rig, on the body, than on the actual implement is where the catapult comes in, because we have a very short lever arm here, okay? A lot of tension built up, a lot of tension on the rig, and then as the arm comes up and delivers the implement, it flies away, but a lot of energy is absorbed back into the rig, okay? There's a huge amount of pressure put here, and in terms of applying that theory to athletes, how many years can you go before that rig starts to break down? Okay, and that's where we really get into, you know, the consistency of the materials, consistency of the body, the tendons and the muscle tissue, and how many throws in a session, how many reps, how hard can they be, right? Can you do 20 throws really, really hard? Or are you at like 7 throws really hard and then you kind of fall off because you can't maintain the pressure on the system, pressure on the body. Now, the trebuchet model, okay, we have a much longer delivery. That was actually a lot of cream in that cup. The ratio's a bit off. Okay, you've got a much longer lever arm for delivery here, okay? The entire mechanism for force production hinges on 2 points, and there's very little stress on the actual system itself, okay? All the stress is put on onto the lever arm and the delivery of the implement. This model is a bit jerky. It's a little bit lightweight. I might have a little too much counterweight in there, but I haven't had much time to finick around with these. So this is just for theory purposes. If you can find videos of really large catapults, really large trebuchets in action, you'll get a little better sense for what's going on here. But overall, you can see there's very little stress on the actual rigging. Also with these, it's very nice because you have a very narrow base here, and this is a big, wide, flat, grounded base. Very, very nice. Recently, I saw a high schooler out of, I think, Missouri, maybe. He built a trebuchet in his backyard for himself. And it's got all the components, but its base is a little too small. And when they let the release go and it throws the object, the whole thing shudders back and forth because the base wasn't wide enough, the base wasn't strong enough. I thought that's a good analogy for if your base isn't strong enough as a thrower, whatever you do with the upper body is just going to toss your body around and not get 100% force out into the implement, okay? So this is all the theory with bent leg throwing. Bent leg throwing allows you to maintain your grip on the ground, both feet down for as long as possible. You can only accelerate and create force with both feet on the ground, and allows you to have a longer strike around the body. It's more consistent, there's a lot less movement, less things can go wrong. That's the whole theory behind bent leg throwing. And it came from the very beginning, right? If you go and watch the video, Baryshnikov all the way to today's best throwers. All right, let's do some demonstrations and how the mechanisms work. Okay, so after a test shot with the chalk was pretty good for this one. This one's obvious. another testament to how much weaker a mechanism like this is. The chalk is right for this. This trebuchet, when I did the chalk flew straight backwards, so I had to get a heavier item. I ended up getting this, I got another one. This hex bolt, it's actually quite heavy, considerably heavy. And that's what the test shot was with, that you saw, the actual release. And it launched this item, which is quite heavy, 9 feet, and actually toward my glass display case, which I had not taken into account when I went filming. And as soon as it launched, I thought, oh no. And then you hear it hit. It actually went into one of my buckets over there. So yeah, much larger rig, more efficient. In the video, you see how smooth the whole mechanism is. It's actually a very, very good video, I thought. So the demonstration between jumping technique, bent leg transfer technique, catapult versus trebuchet, yeah, again, this idea comes from Bonachuk Kamloops training system. I came up with it while I was training up there, and then have filtered it out, and a couple other sources have taken the idea and done their own thing with it. Again, if you have any more questions on that, please seek out the video. All lectures are only $10 from now until the end of April, which is, I never thought I would release the content at a price so low, but you know, it is what it is. So go ahead and take advantage of that if there's content on there that you think you might be interested in. All right, that's another good coffee episode. Take care and keep training no matter what it is, even if you have rocks and bricks. Keep training, keep throwing.